Mr. Gabriel Faria, Chief Executive Officer of the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce. Ms. Angela Leloy, President of the Trinidad and Tobago Coalition of Services Industry, otherwise known as the TTCSI. Mr. Tracy Hackshaw, Program Manager, Global Services Promotion Program at the Ministry of Planning and Development. Ms. Joy Lange Syriac, Program Manager, Skills for Development Services, Inter-American Development Bank, or otherwise known as the IDB. Representatives from the joint chambers, specially invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is Naveen Sitaram. I'll be your chairman for this afternoon's proceedings. I'm also the TNT Chamber's Trade and Business Development Manager, as well as a director at the TTCSI. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's indeed a pleasure to deliver this afternoon's welcome remarks here at the TNT Chamber, along with the joint chambers. And we're all delighted to host a session titled Developing Skills for Global Services in collaboration with the Global Services Promotion Program under the Ministry of Planning and Development and the Inter-American Development Bank. Today's session is a watershed moment in the 137-year history of the TNT Chamber as a business service organization. We are streaming our very first live webinar of our own e-learning platform. I gather when a private sector group can message free of charge to the public hand in hand with government and an international financial institution, it demonstrates that we in Trinidad and Tobago can make good on taking a constructive approach in national capacity building. I would also like to say a special good afternoon to our online participants and thank you for joining us. The TNT Chamber supports the Skills for Global Services program as an initiative that will advance the country's position as a source for information technology-enabled services, which will enhance the delivery of other subsectors within the services industry. Ladies and gentlemen, we are all well aware of the very challenging circumstances Trinidad and Tobago faces. Our energy sector, upon which we rely almost singularly for our export earnings, has been battered by low prices in the international market and declining production domestically. Initiatives leading towards economic transformation and diversification is the unavoidable solution. The TNT Chamber is willing to play a leading role in achieving this objective and actively promotes suitable avenues for our members which would lead to business opportunities such as today's session. Even before now, at our first breakfast session in March of this year, Professor Terence Farrell, chairman of the Economic Advisory Board, himself declared that the services sector must be given special priority and supported accordingly as our economy moves beyond the dependency on oil and gas. This will also be available, you can see more on it with the launch of our Economic Transformation Series on May 11th, where Dr. Jatindra Kadan will be launching his new IDB book entitled Our Oil and Gas Smothering the Private Sector. The Skills for Global Services takes the right step in positioning Trinidad and Tobago as a digital hub for businesses through capacity building. The ultimate outcome of this thrust in IT development is an increase in the export capacity of the country and the creation of employment in the information technology-enabled services. TNT's IT-based sector is a burgeoning one. An assessment of our services sector sees a growth in the ICT industry, which further coupled with government thrust in ICT. So let me get to my first speaker. We have Mr. Tracy Hackshaw, and just do a bit of a bio on him. So Mr. Hackshaw is the Program Manager for the Global Services Promotion Program, which is being executed by the Ministry of Planning and Development. Tracy possesses over 20 years' experience spanning work in the public and private sectors, both locally and internationally, including representing Trinidad and Tobago in various international fora, including in his portfolio our engagements on Executive Management Committee of the Commonwealth Cybercrime Initiative, a 2-year term as Vice Chair of ICANN's Governmental Advisory Committee, Small Island Developing States Annual Workshop Coordination at the United Nations Internet Governance Forum, academic teaching and research work at the Diplo Foundation University of Malta and the University of the West Indies, as well as professional leadership roles in the ministries of Science and Technology, Public Administration, and Planning and Development, iGov TT, TT Connect, Star.TT, among several other entities and organizations. So you see quite a breadth of experience there. So without further delay, I'd like to invite you to enjoy this afternoon's proceedings by participating fully. And so, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Mr. Tracy Hackshaw.
Thank you very much, Naveen, and welcome to all who are here and all those at home. And I know we're recording, so for those who are going to be watching it post today, welcome as well. I want to start by giving about a 10-minute introduction as to what we are doing in the Global Services Promotion Program, and maybe explaining a bit about what this word ITES, which you may be seeing around, what it means and what we're trying to achieve. So I'll do that by just a few slides, and maybe, Naveen, we could take questions on that part of it, and then I would hand over to my colleague who would explain the Skills for Global Services program in great detail. So I'll just start by explaining what we're trying to do in terms of the overall sector. So one of the things that we want to ensure that we understand is that the government of Trinidad and Tobago sees information and communications technology, ICT, and digital services as an essential element of economic development. I'm using them interchangeably or distinctly because you'll see as you go forward that they have different meanings for different people. And then I want to say that growing the information technology enabled services sector is a strategic imperative of the government of Trinidad and Tobago. And again, there's a use for that phrase, and I'll explain as I go forward. So what are these information technology-enabled services? There's a very long definition I've put up on a slide, which is drawn from an IT website. But basically, it's anything that you currently do in services that uses information technology to deliver it. It's as simple as that. So anything from doing word processing to do minutes of meetings, and if you're selling that service to someone else, from that level, straight up to the traditional thinking of software development and analysis, data analysis, etc. So it's really a very wide range of items, and the point I'm trying to make is not strictly technology, it's not strictly IT. I think it's important to understand that, and that's why we want to bring this information to you today so that you understand that it's not only about IT, and I'll make that very clear. Here's some, I'm not sure if it's really not coming up well on the slide there, but maybe I'll look at this slide instead. So this is a World Bank report that came out in 2010 that a lot of people have been referring to for the last 5 years in terms of what this service is. The ITS phrase or terminology really came out of India and the Indian experience. It's a phrase they were using to replace what was known as outsourcing in the late 1990s, early 2000s. And they've rephrased as ITES. And this typology that I'm putting up on screen attempts to show the differences between what are strictly IT-based services and what are IT-enabled services. In essence, it's the separation, as I said before. Technical or technology-driven services are IT-based services, and technology-enabled services are IT-enabled services. So an example of the IT-enabled services would be the things that you can hear about, like business process outsourcing. Many of you may have heard that the banks, local banks, overseas banks, RBC and Scotiabank have begun nearshoring the operations in Trinidad and Tobago through the Trinidad and Tobago International Financial Center. So there's a physical location in Port of Spain, and there's also one in Chaguanas. We also recently heard of the BHP Billiton, who has been moving some of their accounting services locally to Trinidad and Tobago, and this is their global accounting services. And we also heard of ICOR. For those who don't know who ICOR is a very large international multifaceted outsourcing organization who have who have started doing some work in Trinidad and Tobago, first on a standard call center or contact center basis, and they're located at Tamina Intech Park, and they're also doing some work in Barataria, well, soon to be starting in Barataria with Amazon. So there's some of that work happening as well. That's what I would call business process outsourcing, and we're utilizing the skills, the ICT platform to deliver those services. So in that case, in the contact center case, it will be literally using online chat, the phone, quite literally the phone, voice over IP, email, messaging, etc. And if you're talking about the accounting, offshoring services, it's a mixture of the contact center along with actual outsourcing of work. So if you're doing some accounts receivable activities, accounts payable activities, they can be done locally here and utilizing whatever platforms that the banks may be using. So if it's a major accounting package, for those who know of that business, it's things like SAP or Oracle or even Microsoft Dynamics, things like that. They'll be utilizing those packages to do the work and deliver the services to the main organization. But there are many levels in this value chain of IT-enabled services. We in Trinidad and Tobago, we're not taking a view as to what is good or what is bad. We are taking the view that we are trying to get the key things going in this sector. But the value chain of what we're trying to do has to be seen as something that we need to be cost competitive on. So it's been proven, or it's been documented, that some of our costs in some of those areas are quite high, and we are not as competitive as we might be in certain areas. So the government is not going to reinvent the wheel and to repeat the mistakes of past approaches where we would simply try and compete in those areas and knowing that our price levels are very high. So we're going to try and find a way to compete more effectively in areas where we know we can compete more cost effectively in certain areas. And the next slide I'm going to show is some of those areas that we're looking at right now. Sorry, slide after this. So the ITS industry looks primarily at, as I said before, the cost structure when they're looking to site business offsite. They also look at the level of human capital and the quality of human capital. So both numbers and so quantity and quality. Of course, your business climate, your infrastructure quality, and your geographic and cultural affinity. Trinidad and Tobago scores pretty highly on most of those criteria, but the one highlighted in red tends to be a challenge for many people trying to invest. And I'm sure for those who are also in Trinidad and Tobago, who are locally sited here, they may find challenges in that area as well in terms of finding the right numbers of quality personnel. It's important. So it's not just we don't have quality personnel. Do we have the right numbers of quality personnel or the right numbers of quality skills? So the skills may exist, but when they exist in the quality that they exist, they may be very expensive. And in that case, it affects your cost structure, etc. So our target areas currently are looking at areas that are somewhat higher up on the chain, beyond the standard business process outsourcing environment. So there's some level of alphabetical order there, so I don't want to say there's one versus the other. But we're looking at animation, digital media services, applications development, business process outsourcing / offshoring, data science analytics, e-gaming, e-sports, video gaming services, hardware manufacturing and repairs, and yes, we are looking at things like that still, mobile technology, programming and coding, which is a little different to strict application development, so there's some differences there. Software and solution architecture and development, again, some nuances into the areas of software development. It's not all equal to coding. There are areas in terms of architecture development and doing big picture thinking which are different to actually doing the raw coding. Systems analysis, which again is another architectural view or a view of an organization not necessarily related to software development. And what I call web presence management. So that's the whole gamut of the social media, web development, you name it, the contact management, chatting, the outsourcing e-chat management, etc. So web presence management will be that potential area that people who are currently doing website development, even web hosting, can look to obtain some services assistance with. Maybe I could ask if there are any questions on this before I move on, just to clarify if there are anybody who misunderstands or wants to understand why we didn't include certain things. Nope. All right. Good. So just explain exactly what we're trying to do in terms of the Global Services Program and why we are focusing on this particular area. So this program is fully financed by the Inter-American Development Bank. Fully financed, it's a loan. It's $18 million US, and we are using the funds to do various things, not only what you're going to talk about today, but essentially it's an intervention in the sector to try and see if we could get a series of activities started to enable those organizations who wish to start to export services. The goal of the program is to have a net increase in foreign exchange in the ITES sector, a net increase. And by that I mean, if you're currently importing services to deliver your services, we would like you to replace that with using local services. And if you're currently trying to export more, we would like you to use local skills to do that increase in exports. So we're trying to see it on both levels, both to increase the level of exports, foreign exchange, as well as remove the what you tend to have in terms of people using importing of services to deliver their goods, to deliver their services, to remove that as much as possible to use local services, homegrown services. The method we are approaching it through would be to sector-specific training and support services, which is why we're here today, investment promotion and branding, and capacity building to update the policy and regulatory framework. Those are the broad strokes. In terms of the key beneficiaries, as I said, exporting companies. So people who are really in business of export, we're looking at you specifically. This is the focus of the program. Small and medium enterprises who are gearing to export, would like to export, or about to export, we're looking at you. We're targeting also on the other, so that's on the business side, maybe the demand side, we'll call it, and then the supply side. The students who are currently in post-secondary institutions who are deciding what to do with their careers. We don't necessarily have to have you in IT or computer science. You can be in several disciplines. And as I said before, we're talking about areas that are IT-enabled, not necessarily IT skills. So those who are in mathematics and the arts and agriculture and things related to manufacturing, engineering, etc., all of those areas, we're looking to have you as well. We're also looking to have some pivoting. So those students or people who are doing certain areas may want to pivot to another area. And this may be a way to attract that group of students. And certain employees in the organizations who I guess we consider them to be underemployed. Perhaps their skill set may be more designed or more attuned to doing something along what we are trying to do here. Maybe somebody who is doing, I don't know, maybe it's basic stats in a government ministry can do data science, which is not it's not a far leap. It's the same thing. It's just doing it using software. So you're doing basic statistical analysis, and then you can move to data science, things like that. So we're trying to ensure that people who are in the areas that they're in can be seen to do something probably a little different, utilizing the technology. And of course, the unemployed. And as we know, there's a challenge in the economy today, so we are looking to tackle that problem as well. People who have been laid off or people who can't currently find work, even though they're qualified. So this program tries to reach at all those levels. We hope to, we just summarize the impacts. As I said, increased exports, increased foreign direct investment, which we hope will also lead to all of those things I said before. Overall increased employment in the ITS industry. So this is really a program, although it may seem to be very high level, it's designed to reach and touch the people, it's designed to reach and touch businesses itself, business owners, entrepreneurs, as well as the people who are working in those businesses, so the students and employees. We're really trying to get at that group and provide support directly to those groups. So there's no writing of papers, not too much of that research, putting in a shelf, direct interventions into the market to see how best we can assist. Just briefly, there are three components. I don't know if you could see it there. The component one, I will show a little more on that one because it's the most visible one to show. So I'll leave that out for the time being. It's our Global Services Internationalization Hub. And component 2, investment promotion and sector branding. And component 3, capacity building to update the policy and regulatory framework. To do this, we are partnering with the public and private sector. Our main private sector partner is TDCSI, and I see we have the chair of TDCSI here today, and we also have a board member of TDCSI, so you can see they are actively involved even in this session today at the TT Chamber. They are the coordinating agency for the hub. Their responsibilities would include things like sector surveys, finishing school implementation, promotion and management of the GSI hub. So questions on this, maybe we could park until the main session because this is going to get into some detail what we're doing. So if you have a question on these areas, maybe I'll ask you to put that into the bucket for the main delivery so we can move on to that part of it because these get somewhat technical. We also partner with Export TT, and I think that's very clear. We need to partner with the state agency assigned or dedicated to delivering increased exports. They are partners in terms of delivering work in terms of the internationalization training. That's the new word for export readiness. And supporting the ministry in implementation of something called Connect Americas, which is the program that the Inter-American Development Bank has established to create a B2B environment within the Americas, or Latin America and the Caribbean in particular, but also North and Central America, from North America, sorry, in terms of finding opportunities and connecting entrepreneurs and businesses. And also Invest TT. And that's, I guess, the next most obvious partner because they're the ones seeking the investment in, the foreign direct investment in, especially in this sector. So the ICOR project I mentioned earlier would have been an Invest TT driven initiative. We also do work with other agencies involved in this area, such as the TTIFC, other ministries, any other agency who is involved in the area. We are very open. We are not a closed shop. We are very open to anybody who wishes to partner with us, including the private sector generally, who may want to partner with us to get opportunities themselves to deliver services in the program. And this is very small, but this is essentially how the structure of the program works. The bottom left, if you want to use that word on the slide, is the small program execution unit that I head. We just have a few people. So we rely on the largest structure, which you're seeing on the blue on the right, which is hopefully utilizing the resources and skills and abilities of all of our partners and stakeholders to help us deliver this, such as today TT Chamber, because we ourselves, as six people I believe it is, we can't really deliver this on our own, so we need the support of everybody involved to make this happen. And I mentioned that I was going to show a few slides on the most visible part of the program, which is something called the Global Services Internationalization Hub. And we are going to be having a new name for that soon, and look out for that. But right now it's It exists. It's in Chaguanas, 25 Ramstrand Street. You're welcome to visit us. However, we are not yet ready to be open to the public for business. We are going to be outfitting and retrofitting that environment to make it into a space where entrepreneurs, businesses, students, all the stakeholders we mentioned can come and work in that space. We're trying to develop a co-working space for the sector. And we're also trying to deliver a space where we can deliver all this training and we're talking about financial school training and internationalization training in that space as well. So we're just about, some of you may have seen an expression of interest we've put out recently to do design build for the hub. Well, our consultant has started doing some work. So we are about to get that work going and hopefully within a very short, I'm not going to give any dates, especially not online and on camera as yet, but we hopefully very shortly we'll have something that we can open to the public and make it available for you to come and use. This is the facility. For those who know Ramstrand Street, they may have seen this building. It's a 4-story building with about 15,000 square foot space. And we intend to use the ground floor as the public space, co-working space, as we just mentioned. And the other floors would be available for tenants who wish to come and utilize the space, as well as for shared services, such as training, conferencing, etc. So that will be available within due course. This is an idea of what it looks like inside, just to show you that it actually exists, and there's wide open spaces inside there. So I said there will be rental space to companies operating in the industry, rental space for suppliers of services. We hopefully be offering things like a childcare facility, something like a small cafe. We would headquarter of course, the program execution unit will be headquartered there. Our technological infrastructure we believe to be implementing to be best in class. So at the end of that implementation, we hope that we will be the most connected and the most wired facility in the country, so that when you plug into that facility, we will be experiencing speeds that will be very first world, if you want to use that word. So we intend to ensure that is available, and so when you come there, you get what you expect. As I said, we're going to be fostering co-working. For those who are not familiar with co-working spaces, right? So the co-working space, for those who are not familiar, it's not exactly the same thing as a rental of a business space that maybe other organizations might have. It's designed to create a social environment for people who may be otherwise working at home or teleworking, and to have a space to come to and to meet other people in their industry, in their sectors, to understand that they're not alone in this game. And also it's a space where, besides getting the access to the facilities and infrastructure, you will be able to access opportunities. So both physically in the space, assuming that there are tenants who will be utilizing the space as well, so creating a hub, as well as virtually, because we'll be utilizing space to advertise potential opportunities to the people who are working in the space there. We expect to create a hotbed of activity, so that when you're trying to do something in the sector, you'll know that this location will be the place where it's happening, and you need to be there to really get the action going. So I think with that, but this criteria is draft criteria. We're not yet haven't finalized it yet, but this is basically what we're trying to do, try to integrate specific people. So it's not a cyber cafe. We don't want to make it seem like another cyber cafe. It's not a place to come and surf the web and use YouTube and Facebook. It's a place to do work. So there'll be some criteria put in place to ensure that people who are using the facility would be inclined to delivering in the sector. Well, we're not going to be draconian about it, obviously, but we're trying to ensure that it's pushed in a certain direction. So yeah, that's my final slide. So with that, I'm going to pause for any questions on the less technical areas, and then I will hand straight to Joy, I'll hand back over to you. All right, so I'm going to just pause for any questions on the broader areas.
add more Caribbean resourcing solutions. The co-working space, I saw on there you put some students and unemployed people. I know there's only a fee attached to co-working for them. Is there going to be a subsidy, or how's it going to work? Anything about the pricing yet?
Yeah, well, I don't like the word subsidy, but there may be some preferential arrangements for certain groups. That's what we're looking at. I'm not saying it'll be a subsidy, but I'm saying it'll be let's say it's preferential. Yeah, that's all will be welcome. All right, thank you very much.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Tracy. Okay, so I have a bio from a very impressive Ms. Joy Lange Syriac. So she is an experienced project management consultant who has extensive experience in design, development, review, and evaluation of ICT-related projects and programs. Joy has contributed significantly to the implementation of major ICT projects in Trinidad and Tobago. She was a member of a cabinet-appointed committee for the development of the first NICT strategic plan that was branded Fast Forward, and regionally she has provided input for the development of the CARICAD Caribbean e-government strategy for CARICOM. Joy has worked with international lending agencies in the administration and management of government and public sector reform proposals for the Ministry of Public Administration on over 25 projects for the wider public service, notably Parliament, National Archives, Board of Inland Revenue, and National Security. Currently, she is the project manager for the Manpower Strategy for Trinidad and Tobago IDB initiative and will be presenting to you today on the Skills for Global Services Call for Proposals 2017. I'd like you to welcome to the floor Ms. Joy Lange Syriac.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so very much for having us here this afternoon to talk about the Global Services Promotion Program as well as the Skills for Global Services Call for Proposals 2017. As Tracy had presented earlier on the challenge for diversification, we take note that really this is something that's at the forefront of all of the discussions, particularly in the last year or so, last couple of months, given our current prevailing economic circumstances. Essentially, what it is that we're trying to find out is how do we teach a society to do something that it really hasn't done before. And we make the case for diversification, of course, but the data is there for us to see. In 1995, if we look at this diagram, we'll see where the greater the area, the more significant or important is the export. So if we look in 1995, in this slide we can show that we're looking at a large percentage of our exports being petroleum oils, refined ammonia, some crude products there, acylic alcohols. If I take another viewpoint some years later, this is 2014. Is there anything that's significantly different here? We see that we are still exporting largely gases, oils, petroleum products, ammonia, and the alcohols. So this is a lesson for us, and this is, by looking at these two diagrams, we see it's stark, it's in our faces, that we need to diversify. We need to consider that that the services sector, that the private sector, the services sector, is who we are looking for to bring us out and to take us on another path. Why would we want to diversify to IT? Yes, Tracy as well gave a very nice overview in terms of some of the kinds of things that we're looking for, especially as it relates to web design, animation, some of the sectors, the productivity dividends that we can get, the fact that we're at the same time zone, qualifications, we have a highly educated population. Basically, we have a cultural fit. And in looking at diversification being led by the private sector, we are looking towards ICT because it's a high income, or it can generate high employment. Basically, when you look at the BPO as an industry, if you look at some of the things that we would want to explore and expand further, we see that in the ITES, ICT, we can use the terms interchangeably. These are very much low investment startups relative to the oil and gas sector, not so? If you're going to be making significant investments in those areas that we traditionally have high exports, it requires a very huge investment. But when we look at the service sector, when we look at the ITES, the ICT-enabled sector, relatively speaking, it's low investment startup, but what it does is that it presents the opportunity for high employment, and it presents the opportunity for high levels of foreign exchange gains. I want us to consider that there's an economist by the name of Hausman who talks about diversification being led by the private sector, and he's underscoring the point that human capital development must lie at the center of any industrial strategy. And he states that societal knowledge is essential for economic growth. Now, we can talk about economic growth redounding to the infrastructure that we may have, economic growth redounding to all of our traditional exports. But he's making the point that societal knowledge, how do we look at our skills and our skills strategy to take us along another path? And he goes on to say that we measure the complexity of products, not so much by the number of tertiary institutions that we may have. If we start to drill down into what specifically our skills strategy should be, but we measure that complexity, or measure it by looking at the complexity of our products. Where do we get our system, or the kinds of products or the kinds of services that we can export? And the question remains, is the current system of education, is the current system of training producing the kinds of workers that will thrive in a new ITNS-enabled environment? So what we need to do about it, of course, is to therefore coordinate skills on industrial policies. We need for employers to own the skills agenda. So this is where we come to understanding skills for global services. Essentially, skills for global services, what we're saying is that we're going to put forward a process by which businesses, small entrepreneurs, large firms, associations can bid for resources for skills development, can bid for resources for training, for curriculum development, for certification. And that's because we recognize that we must invest, of course, in the skills for the future. In this way, businesses can therefore look at the skills and their needs, partner with a training institution, a college, a university, design a proposal, prepare that proposal, or skills development plan, and therefore your proposal is submitted, it's evaluated, and those winning proposals are funded and your solution is implemented. Essentially, this is the Skills for Global Services initiative. And what I want you to take note of is the fact that we are going to do this in such a way, in such a manner, that we are putting you, the business, at the forefront of the agenda. Because we're trying to ensure that that level of partnering between the businesses and the training institutions is such that there is no longer going to be that mismatch. We understand and we recognize that over the past decade or more, that the Trinidad and Tobago government traditionally has invested a lot of resources into education and training. There are a number of opportunities, whether it's free university education, whether it's GATE, whether it's OJT, there's a number, if you look from an economic standpoint at the level of investment in education, it's been quite significant. However, we know that there remains a mismatch between what is supplied and what's demanded. So that our aim and effort is for us to identify those skills needs, but those skills needs are going to be identified from the point of view directly by the employer sector. And so the public funding, in this case, the funding that's going to be allocated towards the winning proposals are going to be allocated directly to the employers that have to satisfy the employer needs. So with this particular initiative, we are going to be, of course, looking at this project in a novel way. Not so much by tackling it from the supply side, which is how traditionally we've done it. Traditionally, we've asked the institutions, the training providers, to develop curriculum, develop proposals, develop their programs, and then it's put out there into the public space, and it's put out for subscription. In this case, we are turning it around so that we're asking for businesses to determine, businesses who will know exactly what are the specific skills that they require, and work with the training institutions to develop those proposals and skills solutions that will suit their needs. In this project, of course, we'll be monitoring and evaluating all those outcomes, and we'll be monitoring and ensuring that directly there's going to where the beneficiaries will, who are the beneficiaries, and whether those aims and proposals have worked in accordance to what the plan would have been. Who can participate? Firms of all sizes, small entrepreneurs. If you're in the service sector, if you have a core ICT process, if you wish to export, this is important here. If you are registered to operate in Trinidad and Tobago, and if you are not state-owned, you are a business that's eligible to partner with a training institution or an education provider. And we're being as flexible as possible in the sense that this training or your institutions may be domestic, may also be international. It's according to your needs. We understand that this is a sector, as you said, it's burgeoning, a sector that would require, because of the specific needs, may require us to look elsewhere, not only in the domestic market, for specific technical skills, so that we're opening it up and to be as flexible as possible to allow you, the business, right, to shape your skills solution. To answer the question in terms of what can the funds be used for, the funds, of course, will be used for training, for curriculum development, and the training, of course, must be asked that it be certified. Funds can also be used for equipment, for supplies and goods, of course. Once it directly relates to the training program or the solution, of course, we ensure that we're not saying that we're going to be funding equipment and we're going to be doing major infrastructural works on your property. We're not doing that. But once you are showing that what is required is going to be down to directly to the training solution, it will be allowed, of course, to a minor share of your total cost of your proposal. And that's reasonable, not so? Quite reasonable. We would like, therefore, to think about what would give you a comprehensive skills solution. What's mandatory is that it's sector-specific training, whether it's programming, coding, whatever it may be, but also to consider that we will also be willing to fund managerial, technical as well as non-technical skills. In this regard, note that we may have a number of smaller firms, smaller entrepreneurs, persons with the bright ideas, persons who just need to get a little bit of support and get the right kind of skill to find the right type of persons to take them to the next level. And I may be great. I have one guy in my shop who may be great at coding. You can put him in front of a machine, do wonders. But somehow, he can't work in a team environment. Somehow, he doesn't understand how to schedule his work, how to do time management. But somehow, he's just, needs to be shaped in a particular way that would make him into an all-round individual that would be able to do the best and to make money for my business. We recognize that it's not just about the technical skills. We recognize that IT is really just an enabler. It's really just a resource. It's like water, which we need. And in this day and age, we know for those of us who can't do it without our phones, we do need it. So you would want to upskill your existing employees to the point where they may be very strong technically, but you also need them to have other types of skills to enable them to export. You may have a small shop that's very much able to do wonderful things, but yet you don't know how to find additional markets. So here is where we would want you to think of, how can I become export ready? How can I impart leadership on those bright sparks within my small shop? And just to note that we would want, of course, for certification to be for all of those technical skills, we would want there to be some sort of certificate to be, because we want to ensure that there's a standard for quality, not so? So that with that in mind, we are not saying that life skills have to be certified, but we want to be able for you to design your solution in such a way that you complete and you have a comprehensive idea in terms of what your needs are and how you can achieve them. Therefore, employers, you can benefit, employees, managers, your internal managers, your entrepreneurs, the unemployed, those who are looking for jobs, students, recent graduates. In short, as it says there, anybody, as long as there's some increase in human capital in the sector, and you can support growth and international competitiveness. So, essentially, we're looking for innovative, cost-effective, well-designed proposals that will deliver impact. And we're looking for you, the private sector, to deliver to us, you're the ones with all of the ideas, to deliver to us the kinds of proposals that can really take hold and set us in a different way. And just to give us some examples of what are the kinds of proposals that we can entertain, it can be a large, banking industry, could be a small entrepreneur, a firm in the industry, you know, whether in web development, whether doing small basic introductory training in financial software. It can be a wide range of things. If you look at the examples, you'll see how we're very much trying to be as all-inclusive, to cater for not only the smaller firms, but as well cater for all of the firms along the spectrum. I just want to run through in terms of the process, just to give you a sense of what this process entails and what you require. So that we have a number of stages, being eligibility, which is the first stage. And in the eligibility phase, we are saying that firms really just have to indicate their level of interest. And at this point, businesses really don't need to have a training partner at this stage. Of course, by the time that you have to submit your proposals, you must be in some sort of arrangement with a training institution or provider. The process is really very simple. All you need to do is to submit a letter of interest, a proof that you are legally registered, and just a short questionnaire. Submit it to the hub. Tracy gave you some nice visual, a visual slide there of what the building looks like. The venue, it's in Chaguanas 25 Ramsaran Street. So these documents need to be submitted in as soon as possible. And once that is done, we'll ensure that we'll take you to the next stage, which would mean that we're going to be doing some sort of, doing workshops and clinics to aid you. We know that there are some among you that require a level of support, and the project team will be here, of course, to provide that level of support. The clinics are not mandatory, but we'd highly recommend it because we want to ensure that when you do attend the clinics, that you get a sense of where your business is at and where your business should be. At those clinics, you'll be exposed to a number of, there'll be some facilitators. We have some experts coming in, IDB experts who will be coming in to have some chats and some one-on-one discussions as well, as it relates to the skills agenda, as it relates to internationalization, as it relates to the new, technological trends. So there are 4 things there that we hope to cover. What are the skills needs? How do you begin to select who your training partner may be if you don't have one at this point in time? How to assist you in the preparation of proposals? How do you begin to map what you think, to map where you want to be? How do you map or identify the specific types of skills, the specific level of skills training that you need? So that kind of work is what we're going to be doing at the clinics, and those clinics are going to be scheduled May the 15th and May the 16th. Now, the eligibility that I spoke about along this process, firms can become eligible at any time between now and at the end of submission. But just to let you know that if you do require assistance, we would like you to, of course, to send your eligibility, your letters of interest, and all of the required documents by May the 10th by 8 o'clock in the morning. Thank you. So, your proposals, once the clinics have been concluded, we'll have, at this point, we are looking to have two sets of clinics, one at the beginning of May, and we'll have some additional follow-up work in the month of June prior to you submitting your proposal, the deadline date of which is June the 23rd. And with the submission will be evaluated, and we are going to do multiple awards. The maximum award for a project or for a winning proposal will be $475,000. So just think about it. You'll be getting almost $500,000, almost $500,000 to design your proposal. And of course, we'll be announcing the awards in the month of July, thereabouts. With the category of the awards, as we are talking about awards, it will be led by, if you have 10 employees or more, we felt that you can come in and be a proposal on your own. However, if you have less than 10 employees, we encourage you to have small coalitions, small arrangements with like-minded firms and entrepreneurs and individuals like yourselves. Come in, join together, have a coalition, and submit a proposal. All that you require is, of course, to decide who is the lead partner in all of these arrangements. We are working with funds from the Ministry of Planning and Development, so it's important to note that winning proposals must sign a contract with the Ministry of Planning, and that once you're a winning partnership, that you would be required to do a workshop to understand IDB rules and guidelines, and of course, you must be able to have the right administrative arrangements so that you can get direct payments for your winning proposal. So, just to quickly wrap up, I just want to note that you have a winning proposal, you are ready to go. You have, therefore, a maximum of 18 months in which to deliver your skills solution. This project, this initiative, is not meant to be another degree program. It's meant to bridge the gap between the skills that's out there, the skills that you need, and finding the right resources for your business, for your firm, for your association. So that what we're saying is to ensure that all that you're doing, that it can be completed within an 18-month period. That's from the time of award. Right? And just to give you, in closing, the deadlines, we have sent out the invitation. If you look at the newspaper, we have ads running on the call for proposal, which is from March the 29th. We would want you to apply by the deadline date of the 10th. That's only if you require or you would like to have some assistance and you would want to attend our clinics or workshops. The deadline for the submission is June the 23rd. That's the drop dead date by which you must submit a full comprehensive skills solution proposal. And your training period is a maximum of 18 months. So what we would want you to do, therefore, is to go to www.globalskills.gov.tt for more details. It's all fleshed out there. All of the documentation, the instructions, supporting information is on the site. And just to say, this is something that's new. We know that it's something that's needed. We seek your support. We not only want your interest, we want you to turn that interest, yes, this sounds good, let's turn it into action. Send your documents in as soon as possible. And let's see how we can move Trinidad and Tobago forward. It's something that's very much close to our hearts here at the Ministry of Planning and Development and the Inter-American Development Bank. And we're very grateful for the opportunity to bring this novel initiative to you, the private sector. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Joy. I know the Q&A is there at the end of the session, but if you do wish to have a few questions, were you willing to take some now, maybe? So if there are any questions, you just speak into the mic, please.
Good afternoon. Hi, quick question. Really good, I love the initiative. I guess there's one thing that is really not clear on. Most of it was clear. So hopefully this is like oh yeah, very, very easy answer. My understanding is that the companies would basically at some point partner with an educational institution to design some training program based on the company's needs. So if you have needs for guys who could market brilliantly into Latin America. We designed something with the education institution, our education partner. How does that actually work? So, in other words, are we going to be part of the implementation of that? Are we designing the curriculum? Is it that our proposal suggests this is a design, so these are our needs, this is a design of the program, the objectives, the goals, this will achieve at the end, etc. We have to provide the actual trainers for that program, or is it we're just proposing what the structure would be and then trainers will be sought? That's my little gray area there. So essentially, what happens in terms of designing the program, and then of course who delivers the program, and how does the funding go?
Okay. Just to answer your question, we are asking for private businesses to get into partnership with a training provider. It could be one training provider, it could be many training providers. What we are saying is that your solution, your proposal, would outline specifically how the training is going to be delivered. It's understood that whatever training provider that you do join up with, that you're in partnership with, that that training solution or training provider would be the one who would be actually delivering the curriculum on delivering on the solution. So what we want you to note is that really and truly, this partnership arrangement is one in which you're going to state, this is my need, this is the kind of solution that I am I'm putting forward, this is the curriculum, this is the, here is the total number of beneficiaries. You're going to put all the details and articulate specifically what your design proposal is. And once it's assessed and awarded, if you are winning, then you will, this is your project. We're putting employers, as I said, at the forefront. This is your baby. These are your skills that you need, you know, whether your direct beneficiary will be your existing employees or otherwise. This is your project. So you will be tasked with the implementation of it and held accountable for that as well. Any other questions? Gentlemen, thank you. Thanks so very much for that question.
Hi, Mike Ramisa. So very simple question. Could you elaborate what the definition of a partnership is? What that looks like? What good looks like?
Okay. Now, this was a project that it's not new. It's new to Trinidad and Tobago, but it's not new. It has been based on work that was done in Great Britain, and actually this is something that has been done just right here in Barbados. And we've chatted a lot with our counterparts there, and what they've told us is that this partnership, as I used it in inverted commas because it's an arrangement. It's not meant, we know that persons may decide to get together for a number of reasons, and we don't want you to get into a legal arrangement per se, but have an understanding, some sort of administrative arrangement as such, where you, with your partner, will be seeking funding for a project. Now, how that arrangement takes place is up to you and your partner. We are just, we're the priest. We're just facilitating this little marriage. The mediator, we're just facilitating this little marriage. That's it. So feel free to arrange something that's beneficial to you. Right? It has to be something that's beneficial to you. Now, what that may mean, all that we require is that we know who's the lead. At the time of the award, we just want to know where and where to put the funds, and the rest is up to you. Is that okay?
If I could just clarify one point. UTT actually contacted us because we sent them this information from getting the questions I think that I'm hearing. And they are receptive to getting requests. What we can try to do is probably through our trade and business development unit, try to identify the conduit at UTT, right, or at UE, because we have updated UTT and UWI about this program. So I understand the concern is are they going to do 20 different sessions? So it's probably some sort of coming together saying, okay, these are the sessions we want to know. No, of course, it need not be that, because I know this includes other programs besides what UTT or UWI can do. It could be a life skill training program as has been identified there. So UTT as one has contacted us, and if anybody wants, we can, the same person you called for registration, Akila, we can give you a name of who you can contact at UTT, for instance. But they are aware of this program.
Thank you very much, Mr. Farad. Just to know that we are very grateful, of course, for the chambers and for the associations to do the work to encourage all of the private sectors and their membership to take advantage of this opportunity.
Hi, good afternoon.
Afternoon.
My question is related to certification. You
Yes.
mentioned that, I don't know if you said it, you want us to consider it is mandatory that whatever program you're looking to implement, it has to be certified. But also you said it's supposed to run just 18 months. So who is doing the certification? The institution we're partnering with? Let's just say we want to identify some online training from different options. So it's not like just one program per se. So what type of certification you're looking at? TTNVQ, CVQ, diploma, what is it?
Okay. The initiative is geared for different along the spectrum. What we do require is that whatever training that is going to be implemented, that there's a certificate. Now, the certificate, if firms are registered, if they're accredited, if training providers, I'm saying firms, my mistake. If training providers are already registered with local bodies, if the training providers are accredited, very much that's welcome, of course. Online training providers, if you're going to use the option of an online training provider, we know that whatever programs they may be, that they would have what is called a recognized, awarded certificate by a generally accepted awarding body, whether it's an external awarding body. But those in the education sector do know that when they look at a particular program or curriculum or development, that it has achieved a certain level of standard because that particular program has already gone through the rigor from an external agency that would have already been awarded an external acceptable body. I want to stress that when it comes to the level of quality, we want to ensure that at the end of the day, that if you say you are skilled in a particular area, right, that level of skill can stand up to scrutiny. That level, that practical knowledge, that because this is why we are saying this is something that is skills-based. It's not just for the certificate, just for saying that you have it. It's to ensure that there's a level of quality that is associated with your proposal and with the training that the person is going to get. I hope I've answered your question. There's locally, we know all of the awarding bodies, just to talk about NTA, ACTT, we've had numerous discussions with all of those entities, and they're very much on board and aware of the project at hand. So if you do want to get some information as it relates to their work and what is required of the training provider, please feel free to contact them for further information. We do have links on our website that can direct you to some of those resources that will help you out.
Just for further clarification, there is a clear criteria for organizations or businesses to achieve, to qualify. What about your partners? Because you did mention you can use international universities. But what is the criteria? Has there been a criteria established for those? More so since you're looking at export market, and whatever qualification you use for your consultant or your professional has to meet some, I imagine, some criteria for providing those services. So has there been an established criteria for your partner, especially if it is, well, your education partner, whether locally or internationally?
Well, the criteria is that the program that is going to be developed is one that is certified. The training partner can be local as well as foreign, and we know that we do have a number of our local institutions with ties to foreign universities that can shape a specific program just for you. So that our local institutions, they're very much on board and they're very much aware of the types of what they need to do to ensure that that certification, that quality assurance is built into their training solution. I hope I've answered your question.
I encourage everyone to visit the website because there's lots of useful information there, and Joy has given you the address for the website. Yes, there are criteria for the training providers. They have to be quality assured by a legitimate local or international quality assurance agency. And once they meet that criteria, also for international training providers, they have to meet the IDB's eligibility criteria.
Yeah. Thanks, Kim.
Extending that question again, one area I'm not too sure about. If the partnership only with academic institutions, in other words, let's say I am in app development and I was able to get Google to have a program with me and my team training. It was not necessarily an academic institution, but would I be able to pursue something like that?
Yes, it is. Google is.
Well, I mean, I just use Google as an example.
Yeah.
What if it's not something like
Just to let you know, we will accept Google. Google is an international. There are other. There are other
Well, let's say
agencies or bodies.
I'm
Yes.
an animation.
Yes.
Right? Which I do. And I wanted to get a story lab done with Sesame
Yes.
Street or anything. Any of those types of production studios, if they develop a curriculum that benefits me and my team, that would be able to submit for approval. My question says not necessarily an academic training institution.
Not necessarily, but industry, because we do recognize that there are industry certification. There's industry certificates. Microsoft does their own thing, right? Microsoft do their own thing as Microsoft. Google as well. There's industries. There are industry standards.
Okay.
Right? There are industry standards that are recognized, that are international, and that's known. So that we are not limiting you to an academic institution per se. So that's why we use the term a training provider. Someone who is a provider of training will not necessarily be an academic institution. So we are welcome, of course, to the industry-specific skills. That's where we want you to start to think of as you design your proposal.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Kim, you can give the last point.
Just to quickly reassure patients that we are willing to work with you, and we're very excited for you to be innovative with respect to this project and to take the initiative. So feel free to contact us with your questions. Feel free to use a cliche, think outside the box, and we will definitely, hand in hand with you, come up with a solution that works best to meet your business needs. Yeah. We're not trying to impose upon you. We're trying to ensure that you can develop the skills for your business growth. And as Joy said, a lot of private sector, industry-related institutes and think tanks, etc., offer quality assured training. We just want to make sure that we are working towards something that adds value and benefit. So the quality has to be there, but we're not going to be sticklers about being a university or being a traditional
training provider.
On that front.
And on that note, please feel free to email your questions to info@globalskills.gov.tt. That's info@globalskills.gov.tt. www.cbs.gov.tt. Thanks so very much.
Okay, well, right, so let me get down to the end. We have Ms. Angela Leloy, who's the president of the TTCSI and also chairperson of Aegis Business Solutions Limited, which is an outsourcing advisory services, and partner of Aegis and Company, an external audit company, and chairman of recruitment agency, Eve Anderson Recruitment Limited. So without further ado, my chairman of TTCSI, Ms. Angela Leloy.
Actually, I don't think all of that is necessary. Just Angela Leloy would have been fine. My big task today, got it? Right. My big task today is to really say thank you. I think it was extremely informative for everyone in here and whoever was listening to the website. I must admit that my own selfish part of it and listening to it, saying, oh my gosh, what am I going to get out of this? And I'm sure that's what all of you are sitting down doing, and that's exactly what you should do. But my job is really to say thank you. Clearly, I have to thank Tracy Hackshaw, which gave us a very big macro position of what's going on. And Joy, obviously, was able to give us the nitty-gritty of whatever was being asked. As we can see, she was ready for any of the questions that you had. But in addition, she seemed to have here, in between, some of her support who was able to solidify anything that anybody raised to give you any sort of doubt. Now, that's what you call a great team. I have to thank you all for listening attentively, because I must admit I put my glasses on to Mako, and it was all going on very well. And based on that, even from the questions you asked, it indicated that you were listening, clearly listening, because you had matters that you're going to go back home or to your office and think about and say, how am I going to capitalize on this information that has been shared here? We have to thank, obviously, you for being here, for the chamber for facilitating, and it's also a process of the joint chambers. And the joint chambers is quite large, as you can see. Let me give kudos to them. You have the energy chamber, you have TTMA, TTCSI, let me say that loudest, AmCham, and the chamber. So we have all of them, and we're going to be sharing this information. So I think with that deadline in May, after we let go this, there will be a rush to get there. So you better make sure that your application is so competitive and demanding so that they would, but they said they would give a lot of help to everybody, right? So that is important. So without further ado, and I really want to thank everybody. I think I love the whole aspect of this finishing school aspect of it, which I think in Trinidad we have a lot of technical knowledge, very much so, but as we all know, technical knowledge is just a very, very small part of anything, and in fact in getting into management levels. So your technical knowledge is what you need here, but you need the finishings to get to the top, and that's what we need if we are going to be, there with the international world, looking at the business process outsourcing. Needless to say, that's very close to my heart because that's what I do. But I want to thank everybody for their time.